Check 1 2, check 1 2. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for your patience and your understanding as I'm trying to figure out what was going on with that stuff. I have a brand new audio interface after my last one crapped out, and I borrowed one off a friend. And here we are, back in business, back regular. I bought the Behringer UMC 204 HD. Normally I stay away from the Behringer stuff because it's pretty cheap. But I actually read a lot of really good reviews on it. And especially about the noise floor, which is good for me doing like voiceovers and stuff, because I'm using this mic, requires a lot of gain, and you get a lot of like hiss and stuff when you're trying to do certain narration, quiet stuff. So, I don't know. And actually, it's really hard to find interfaces right now because all the musicians are at home and not working during COVID. So every musician in the world's like, I guess I better record now, I'm gonna need an interface. So all the ones you would want to buy are gone. So my normal replacements, it's just a terrible, terrible time for me to break my interface. But I deserved it because the interface I had before, I let that thing fall on the ground so many times. It was so durable. But I just got used to it falling and being okay with it. So we're going to be doing our top 20 gaming tracks as chosen by our people on Discord. So if you want to have a choice, you need to show up there. We've actually had, and big thanks to Lenot for organizing all that stuff and organizing the playlist, and it really cuts down on any of the extra work I'd have to do to get that done. So big thanks to producer Lenot. All right, this is Legend of Dragoon. As somebody already guessed, it was Do4. Was it Do4? No. Yeah, it was Do4. Do4 already knew. Claudio, we're gonna try it again. Yeah. This style tree cutter? Yeah, I think it goes well with my beard. Okay, so we are back now. Let's put these links onto here, of course, so the other people can see them, just in case. We've got to put them that way. Must have to, otherwise people will not know where to go. The people that are here know where to go, because they're the smart ones. All right, so, and we started off doing this where people were just picking like 5 songs, and then we had 20. We were like, how are we going to do this? Are we going to do voting or what? And it's kind of come down to it just of like, pick your favorites that you really want on there. Make sure that's number 1, or, put them in order. The one you want the most on number 1, the one you could most see not getting on the list at number 5. And that's how we've done it. I sacrificed 4 of mine because I'm just that kind of a guy, and I thought it'd be nice to get more of yours on there so I can hear some new stuff. All right, so what's it called? The playlist Lena sent to me is here, and I'm going to play it. Let's make sure that we have a nice little image on the screen. Otherwise, it's going to be seeing Joiny all the time, which is cool. Joiny's fine. All right. Okay, first track is going to be from... Oh, and our theme is JRPGs. How cool is that? JRPGs. Now, there are some tracks. I took a sneak peek at the names on this list, and I would say that some of these are not JRPGs. And there'd be an argument for that, but it doesn't really matter. But the chat box for the stream starting soon as text while the place on the right bottom side. Yeah, I could do that, but then there's not really as much room for chatting. I was going to have the game stuff right above my head, because it's not really all that big and all that exciting. The chat is the most interesting thing to me. Alright, top 20. Top 20 win cap. Kaboom. There it is. This will be the first one. It'll be Kingdom Hearts. This song is called Rage Awakened from Kingdom Hearts HD 2.5 Remix. Thank you, Nomura. Thank you so much. Alright, that was The Rage Awakened in Kingdom Hearts HD 2.5 Remix. So this is, I'm seeing in the chat, this is what, Lingering Will. This is some kind of giant super boss of it. El Azul, welcome. Now, I would think with this song, it starts off and it's got a nice kind of like electro percussive build and that beautiful kind of solo violin that feels really strong and really agile. So to me, it sounds like the violin is the player that needs to use their sort of speed and their wits and their skills to encounter this like huge kind of percussive, maybe more electronic sound like orchestration and the big heaviness of all that. And I think so it does a pretty good job of kind of like painting the picture for me without having even played the game and never ever wanting to play this game. You're pretty sure the scene plays when you fight Lingering Will in Birth by Sleep too. And it starts off like fairly kind of generic and how you'd expect, but then I think it goes to a couple new places, and there's one definite chord change that I really didn't expect at all, and then it kind of builds, and then has this nice kind of triumphant action come down, which I think does a great job of setting the scene for what it's supposed to be. All right, so next up on the track is, our track listing is from Persona 3 FES. It's called Heartful Cry. All right, it's got a nice kind of percussive. It's got a nice dance percussion to it that keeps it moving. It's really fun. It's really funky. It kind of sounds like, for Persona, it's a boss battle where you need to pay attention and focus, but it's a really friendly vibe the whole way through. It's kind of fun and funky. It doesn't sound like you're in, I mean, there's a bit of danger, but you're having fun while you're doing it. It's like you were saying, this is where all the characters end up fighting each other here. It's like a lot of characters coming together. To me, it seems like a team is going to win. And just, I think it works pretty well for Persona, which puts such an emphasis on teamwork and the characters they meet and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, you almost can never go wrong with a Persona track. Sometimes they can get a bit cheesy and kind of a bit generic, but they're almost always going to be really, really fun. Okay, next up is from Final Fantasy Type O HD. This is CD2 track 14, War, the Quiet Bloodbath. That awesome Western guitar. You know what I really like about Type O is that it definitely has its own style of what it's trying to do in this that like the tremolo guitar, the kind of plodding drums, and this kind of the electric guitar leads with a bit of the like symphony behind it to give it a bit kind of like a syrupy, more cinematic style to it. But it's definitely, like, when you hear a Type O track, you know it's not only just from the Type O from Final Fantasy, but I mean even out of any game you can pick. It's kind of like Silent Hill in that same way. But I think it's a really interesting use of genre that we've probably never really heard before. Like, where else do you hear music combined in this way? Which is such a fantastic thing of video game music that you don't find almost anywhere else. Alright, that was Final Fantasy Type O, the War, the Quiet Bloodbath. Next up is Blue Reflection. The title is like Binge with a capital G C17H21NO. I don't know what the heck this is. Whoa. That's incredibly intense. That sounds like you're having a battle in some kind of crazy ass EDM festival. Like you took Burning Man versus Shambhala versus whatever big European EDM festival you guys have in like Prague or something. Like you just had 40,000 DJs charging towards each other. They're all like, oh my god, this is nuts. This sounds like Skrillex deciding how to spell his name. This sounds like Skrillex designing his logo. This sounds like Skrillex looking at his bank account and just going. Yeah, that's what it is. All right, that was insane. This is not the kind of music I would normally listen to. It's just so... Okay, what's your description here? You're fighting a giant monster the size of an end boss that appears every few months. Skrillex went to Teddy Boy's high school. Jace! Hey, Jace, how are you? Welcome. Yeah, this is definitely the Skrillex checking his bank account and having a party with himself. Or anyone he wants to. Because he went to Ted's high school. Okay, alright, this is crazy. I'm too much of an old man for this kind of music. I've never heard this in a game before. This is pretty nuts. I like it for working with a monster that appears just every couple of months. This song sounds so like... I don't know if the rest of the soundtrack is like this, but for me, if it was kind of a more traditional like JRPG soundtrack, not all of a sudden this comes in when the big monster comes... Like, what kind of monster appears every few months? That's an interesting idea, right? So it would seem like it just came out of some portal out of nowhere. Like, this part here almost kind of sounds like 13-2, you know, where you would fight the dimensional stuff that would come through, and they would use that composer that was a bit more electronic style. So that's pretty cool. Interesting. Thanks, Prince, for bringing your unique ideas. Now, this one, I don't know if I'm going to call Dark Souls 2 a JRPG. I definitely wouldn't. I'd call Dark Souls 2 is an action-adventure game that kind of redefined action-adventure. Yeah, it's Japanese, and yeah, there's like RPG leveling to it, but it's way more. It's definitely an action game. It's nothing else. But okay, whatever. I'll allow it because I recognize this track and I like this track, and it reminds me of... No. That's the thing, Lena. It's like, okay, Call of Duty, you level up your guns. Is it an RPG? You go from level 0 to 50 or 99? No, it's not an RPG. This takes... Dark Souls is all about the duel. Smashing people and stamina managing. Anyways, this track is fantastic, in my opinion. And it does remind me of something you'd hear in a JRPG, like when you visit some kind of wishing well or something. But I'll shut up and we can listen. All right, that is Dark Souls 2. It's called... What the heck is it called? Majula. Is that Majula some kind of a vape? Anyways, Dark Souls 2 is definitely probably one of my least favorite Dark Souls, although I did get through it, I think. I got a lot farther in Dark Souls 2 than I did in Demon Souls, and it did do some things that were a bit more interesting. And I feel like when I hear this theme, I think of that open hub area of Dark Souls 2, and that it did kind of create its own world. For some reason in Dark Souls 2, that hub to me felt more like, well, it was nice because it felt more like people lived there. There was grass growing. There were people who seemed to be doing jobs and kind of had a personality and were moving around. There was like a forest that felt pretty connected to it. Whereas a lot of times in Dark Souls, and some of the other hubs in the Dark Souls games, you go to your hub, and even though it's supposed to be a safe place, it's kind of this like dark nether area in between things. Whereas I did appreciate that about Dark Souls 2, that it had, and they're like more cold and dark, and the absence of life, which works for their story, because you're in this place, which makes total sense. That when you die, where do you go? That's what I love about Dark Souls, is that it's a video gamey concept of when you die, you try again. But Dark Souls actually plays with that of where do characters go when they die? Well, they would go to this place, like in Demon Souls, in that hub world where you have to be, you start off as a ghost and then you got to come back. And it's so brilliant to actually sort of gamify and make all the things you're doing in a game feel like they are a part of the story, and not just something like, well, when I'm Mario, when I fall in a pit, why do I get to try again? That doesn't matter. You just get to try again, and that's all it is. Whereas From Software totally embraced that and played with it, and I think I appreciate what Dark Souls 2 did in there. I really didn't think I'd be... Majula was Party City, not the store. Huh? Layer myself on top of my YouTube tab. Anyways, when I thought the giant hole was a well, yes, I did. I thought that's where people get their water, and the town surrounds it. It makes a lot of sense to me. All right, this next one is, all I see on it is Calling Final Remix. I don't know what that is. Calling Final Remix. What is The World Ends With You, a game I've never played, but I've heard a lot about and participated in a podcast discussion about. man, I really like this. At the beginning, I didn't think I would, but it kind of turned into something like, I wish Madonna sounded more like this. Maybe she does, but this is like the best Madonna song she never put out. This is cool. I think Dofor described it pretty well. I do get this kind of like dark clubbiness. I think it's because it's mostly kind of that percussion and the vocals over top. There's not really a lot of texture or anything else going on with it. Oh, don't be giving up the next one. Yeah, so it kind of sounds like, I guess you're in like a dark city, dark urban, wake up, show appreciation. And it's got those sort of, I'm Japanese and I'm singing English, and I don't know what I'm saying, and I'm singing like Google translated lyrics. This is great though. It's it just kind of, it sits really nicely. It's not grating at all, and it's fantastic. All right. Oh yeah, I just love it. Wake up, show appreciation. Next up is from Legend of Mana. Title theme. Ooh, an RPG title theme? I'm ready to like it. Well, there you go. Wake up, show appreciation. Definitely a Yoko feeling track. I like what somebody had said. Sounds like the world, Prince. Sounds like the world is dying because of sinister circumstances. I never grew tired of the song or the game from El Azul. Almost as dearly beloved vibes from Lena. Jace digging the piano. Something bad happened. Now it's time to pick ourselves up and fight for the good cause. Yoko Shimura knows how to put that emotional weight to the music for sure. Definitely. And Yoko's stuff is always kind of like slightly melancholy, even when it's at its most kind of beautiful or even adventurous. It does kind of sound like the piano was wistfully thinking about regret. And I think it's because the piano is sort of fairly beautiful, but then like the bass notes of the piano and everything around it is kind of like lifting and pulling down. It's like it has a breath to it, going in and out, and push and the pull. A lot of tension, and it kind of sounds like the piano was trying to hopefully rise up beyond everything weighing it down. Ooh, nice change there. Legend Man music sounds like the creation of the world. That's a good point. And then we kick into Yoko Gear. Action. Where she really uses that piano as a kind of like a rumbling drum almost. I was going to say percussion, but I feel like I've said that 10 times already. All right, next up is from Final Fantasy IX, the Hildegard theme. All right, fantastic. That is the Airship Hildegard theme. I think a lot, with Final Fantasy IX, a lot of it is a throwback to the earlier days of Final Fantasy, sort of like 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And Dofor, you loved Final Fantasy IX. I wasn't too keen on this one, though. It's a kind of a time filler. Wanted to land. So you're not a fan of the actual track? This one, or the part of the game where you are flying around in the airship? I think what's nice about this track is that while Final Fantasy IX is a big throwback to the earlier days of Final Fantasy, where they use a lot of more like traditional sounds and going for that traditional fantasy feel and vibe, when you add in that airship Mega Man synth vibe, it feels like you're elevating it, because you've been, most Final Fantasy games, you meet your characters, you have your problems, you go along, and then all of a sudden, maybe you're down in the dumps, and then boom, airship carries you towards the end. So you need to introduce something new, and I think with those new synth sounds and textures, and this big bombastic, there's so much momentum behind this track that it feels like you're on your way. You're on an airship. You have some new technology, and you are gonna beat them down pretty well. Claudio, Final Fantasy soundtrack's so consistent, always struggle to pick a fave. Oh yeah, because they do things so differently and so well, and they fit the game, which is what definitely the number one importance of any kind of game music. Final Fantasy IX combines the cool sci-fi stuff and the medieval stuff perfectly. Yeah, I'm always more of a sci-fi than a fantasy guy, which is why I'm more excited for, say, Cyberpunk than another Witcher, or even a Bloodborne to have more technology than a Dark Souls. Or Final Fantasy VII over Final Fantasy, any of the fantasy ones. Or, 6 too as well. That, like, steampunk. Just give me some more technology. I like to see pieces of metal put together. Next up is the 13th Reflection, Kingdom Hearts HD 2.5 Remix, Remastered, Honey Q, Barbecue Sauce. Oh, crap, and I got rid of it somehow. I think you need to reload the page. That was the advice I got last time when I did that. Where is that puppy? The 13th Reflection. There you go. Don't click on the clock. Don't click on the clock. Don't click on the clock. No. Yeah, this definitely, it's, another great Yoko track. Pretty solid. I feel like this music is not getting in the way of anything. Like, in case you needed to also be telling story or really focusing on the battle. It's just a pretty solid battle. It's got, what I like about it is that the percussion is very quick. It's a lot of like, in the background, there's a lot of those things moving around, and the piano marking spot, boom, 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 gives it that sort of irregular meter to it that gives boss battle themes, and Uematsu was doing this for a long time. Gives them makes it feel like this isn't your regular battle. We're gonna have slightly irregular rhythms, and like you're managing a lot of things at once while it's all epic sort of around you. So a nice track that I wouldn't get annoyed of if I had to fight a boss 14,000 times. Next up is also from Final Fantasy IX. This is the Kingdom of Burmetzia. This is nice. Wow, super, super powerful, emotional. This to me sounds like, because there's no percussion here and it loops around a few very simple but huge and strong ideas, and the way it's constantly kind of descending and then folding in on itself, to me this sounds like something very incredibly important has happened, and probably a bit sad, like you had just told me that she loses her love. But it feels like a single moment has happened that's terrible, and you're sort of, and that moment is so bad it's being like expanded, to something that you would never be able to forget. This is great. This it reminds me of like Oath to Order in Majora's Mask. I love this song, and this is just another incredible Uematsu track that almost sounds like something Koji Kondo would have done, like I said in for Oath to Order and Majora's Mask. Just that like aching beauty that's transported. It's just one moment looping in on itself. The way that this track never really feels like it gets to a home chord. There's never really a resolution to it. It just keeps getting worse and worse and keeps you off balance. The same way that the Final Fantasy VII Victory Fanfare never has a home chord. It's just constantly introducing other elements that create tension, no matter what. You keep thinking it's about to resolve, and then it takes you somewhere else. This is fantastic. This is definitely one of my favorites of the whole week, and one I totally forgot about. I love it. Next up, let's put on my one track of the week. This is Final Fantasy IX Freya's theme. Here comes the bass. Not yet. I was wrong. That is one of my favorite songs of all time. Just of all time. Of all music. Of gaming as well, and Final Fantasy. And Final Fantasy 9. It's just, I love the way that the harpsichord is a real kind of, it's an elegant sounding instrument. And the way that they're using it to sort of like dance along. That kind of like, dun, 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 dun. It's like that sort of like irregular, but it's what do you call that thing? When there's two beats going on each other that are separate from each other. I forget what that's called. Anyways, it gives a like slight interest to it, but it does feel like the harpsichord is this sort of like beautiful, frail, natural thing, kind of dancing around through the fates and destiny to be hit with the the depressing melancholy of life and traumatic incidents. It's wonderful. Oh, I just absolutely love it. Yeah, man. You gotta have, and when that bass does come in, oh, just when you think you've, and like Jace was saying, just when you think you think you know where it's going, but it's not, never quite predictable. Good Lord. All right, let's back up the list. This is from Drakengard 3, Descendus. What a Drakengard name. I'm assuming this is I think we have this conversation every time. I love the Drakengard, the Nier stuff. I'm assuming it's the same composer. they just have such a wonderful style of this real kind of careful, gently beautiful, like you're, I don't know, watching a forest fairy be born out of a flower as the sun and the rain create a rainbow in your brain. It's beautiful and unique, and works with the kind of like that like weird otherworldliness that you tend to get from this franchise. Can't figure out the emotion you get from this. Sad in general, dark melancholy, and bright sounds mixed in. Yeah, it's kind of like all beautiful things must come to an end or something. Like you're watching the birth of a fairy, but the way the beautiful fairy can be born is only if its mother dies in childbirth or something like that. Because everything is constantly descending usually when this composer works, and then resolves and comes up a bit, but there's a lot of beautiful, hopeful melodies going on around it, but it's always slowly descending the bass usually, and slowly. So yeah, it's definitely a pretty interesting vibe. Again, something you just would, like, where would you ever hear anything like this other than in video games, and I love it. Mega Dimension Neptunia 7. Desperado, coming up next. Oh, baby. Kind of similar to the last song. It's a nice theme. I think it works well as a world map. As Prince says, a world map theme where the characters have been transported to a post-apocalyptic version of their dimension. Yeah, this isn't the kind of theme that's going to get grating or annoying. I like these sort of like thoughtful synth sounds, and gives a feeling of like something new, constant progress, but you're not in a big hurry to do it. You're going to be backtracking. You're going to be taking things in, and everything is a little different. So I think it does a perfect job of soundtracking what Prince had described. Evil goddesses roam the land, destroying anything they find, while one remaining sane goddess tries to fight them. Now that is a JRPG. That's a super JRPG. Next one is from another JRPG, Final Fantasy II, the PSP version, Castle Pandemonium. All right. That's a quick one. The interesting thing about these ones is like when you take a track that was composed on the NES and then you remix that into more of a modern thing, all of a sudden you go from having only 3 tracks where you can actually make melodies, one being bass, and you just have to make sound effects. There's not really much you can really do, and everything has to be super memorable. So then to take those really strong melodies and put them in, kind of add so much more. I feel like they did a really good job in this remix of preserving what made the original track fantastic, and just adding great samples around it that retain that. Because the thing with like the original NES, Super Nintendo, Genesis stuff is like those notes were so pure. They were just big, thick sound synth files, right? And you don't want to lose that. But they do a good job of putting these together. Even that kind of like bam, which is a trick they did on a lot of NES and Super Nintendo stuff, just to give it a bit more of a movement and try to make it sound more lifelike and what they had to do. That was nice. Definitely, you get interrupted so many times at random encounters, right? The final dungeon theme. Okay. That sounds like you are Regal. You have the team that is needed to do this task, and but it's going to be arduous along the way. It's fantastic. Peter Spain, welcome. All right, next up is Grandia 2 Fight Version 3 Middle Boss Battle. Wow. Like I was talking about the pureness of those synth sounds, this is a pretty good example of when you're using like a sound chip, how you can get killer drum sounds and synth sounds as long as you embrace with those and kind of play them almost like you're in a synth band. It's like the melody choices and the scale and like the kind of like galloping epicness of this that sounds like it's being played by kind of like a synth pop band. This definitely sounds so much like it's right out of Sonic. Couldn't have been the same composers, because the composer for Sonic, at least Sonic 1 and probably Sonic 2, was actually like a Japanese pop band. Peter Spain! I'm glad to have you. It's all those classic beats of a grand JRPG fight theme. Definitely, but also, what I like about this is it's got some more room to breathe and it's a little more fun. Whereas sometimes a lot of the JRPG battle themes can be like oppressive, like this boss is going to kill you. This one, there's a lot of, like this kind of fun halftime breakdown. And just like the agility of the synth, and this is a really great vibe. And a track I've never heard before, but definitely one of my new faves. All right, this next one is this is another boss theme. This is from Paper Mario, and these boss themes in the Mario franchise, the Mario RPG franchise, are nuts. Yeah, this does feel like the music is really pushing you along, like it's your friend, like the game is your friend, and have fun with it. Get ready. Man, these Paper Mario boss themes especially are so proggy, and that's a thing a lot of the Japanese composers will do with their boss and battle themes is they'll get super proggy, and I think Uematsu set the tone for that to get like just go crazy with it, where you feel like those Bowser notes and also something newer to me, but that's a bit different than you would expect from Mario. Definitely, where it's like it'll have kind of that. I hear like a lot of Donkey Kong Country kind of percussion in the background, that kind of like Super Nintendo sound, which to me sounds like it's from the DS, where it's using, yeah, it's got the Arabic scale for sure, Ted, like an Egyptian scale, and but they just would go nuts with these boss themes, which I think makes sense because everything else probably you're playing in the game, like your map themes, your menu themes, your basic levels and stuff, and your mid bosses, is all going to be in like a fairly accessible style. But then when you're fighting a boss, to just let yourself go wild and do these like wild, long, crazy runs of notes and go in and out of the scale, and then that kind of Arabic, like exotic style, almost like Bowser's the king of Egypt from a different land, a different time. Great theme as always. All right. Oh, hey, speaking of Final Fantasy IX and those dreamy world map themes, this is another Final Fantasy IX track. This is called Crossing Those Hills, as I improperly called it before, Over the Hills. Oh, good God. Just wash over me, baby. Good God. Is that just a perfect theme? And the way that it loops, too. There's something about the skill of looping the end of a track back to the beginning that is something that somebody like Uematsu would have just done so well. Oh my God. I mean, the way that this doesn't just... Like Final Fantasy IX, I mean, myself, and it's commonly called like a throwback RPG, but it doesn't wallow in its oldness. It still embraces a lot of... I think it goes for the idea of those older Final Fantasies while still exploring new sounds and, new storytelling ideas and characters. This theme is so floaty and dreamy, like the whole world is now at your fingertips and you're just going to have a really nice, sweet adventure. And it's not going to get too serious. And you just makes me smile and want to like run around that big blurry pixelated PS1 world map. And like when I think about Final Fantasy IX, my favorite parts are the just exploring the different towns and meeting the different types of people, because there are like some pretty interesting and variations too. Yeah, the game gets serious later on, but I mean this map though, it's just so gorgeously put together. The way that Uematsu is layered, and then the way here that it starts gaining a bit more of that, a little more percussion, a little bit more momentum, and it builds, and then the way that it just softly, but it's like the almost sounds like they're using brushes on like big timpani drums. It's like you're lightly playing an orchestra, and the way just yeah, even now in the way that it lets you just come down from even the momentum of this part of the song. It's just gorgeous. Good lord. Wow, I don't know how you top that. All right, next up is Romancing Saga 3, 4 Noble Devils. Look at that font. Looks like an ad for a mobile game. Yeah, definitely. Wow. Great points, Claudio, Jace, and Prince. It definitely does feel like you're fighting somebody with a rapier or a duel. Like, it's a fight, but it's very elegant, and there's a lot of, like, the arpeggios going up and down. There's a lot going on in this track. If you're fighting 4 noble devils, it would seem like you're fighting everything you've ever encountered before and more. In kind of like a magical, fantastical, like, what are these people? What are you fighting? The constant key changes, and it just like pushes you in all these different directions. It's like you are getting thrown between 4 very strong forces. Just a really solid, interesting track with a lot going on, and this kind of thing takes a lot of skill to compose and pull off and not sound like total garbage. But wow, do they ever nail it. Sure, you all have them too when you hear music from games you recognize and haven't played too. You can only comment on the music of the games you played and how they made you feel in the moment, such powerful memories of events within the game. Well, I mean, you could also, music should be able to make you feel something without the game being there, you know? It's just wonderful when they all come together. All right, next up is, we're on our last 3 here. This is from Final Fantasy 13-2. Disc 1, New Bodum. from Super Nintendo to modern. Wow, that was incredible. I mean, the way that it just kind of sparkles around and builds up and then builds and builds toward, and like just that nice kind of trip-hoppy kind of beat. And the way that it uses the vocals in this as just another instrument. You know, the vocals don't need to dominate it. And then when it builds to that climax of that crazy psychedelic, distorted, delayed, heavily affected violin, just like bends my mind around. This is pretty genius. This is one of my favorite tracks in the Final Fantasy franchise now. And this is actually made by Mitsuto Suzuki, who worked on the 13 franchise alongside, what's his name? Hamazu? And this is when they wanted to bring in multiple composers to give, well actually, I think this is a guy. He just helped arrange on Final Fantasy 13, but composed for Lightning Returns and 13-2 when they wanted to bring in the different dimensions of sound. Especially in 13-2, you're going to like different timelines, so I think it was a genius idea to have different composers on there to give it a much more alien feel, that you're going someplace that's a lot different than what you're used to. Oh man, what a track! What a track! Good lord. Oh, those bloody drums. Alright, next up is from Persona 3, Kimi no Kyoku, Memories of You. There's some more piano for you, Jace. Yeah, definitely another fantastic way that Persona creates just a killer groove. The drummers and the bassists are having so much fun. It's telling you, it feels like the story's being resolved, but like a lot of cool, unexpected ways it's pushing you around. Just such a sweet jam that feels like a celebration of everything you've come through and done and realizing the weight of everything that's happened. But just finishing it off in such a fun, like you're at, you know what it's like? I think you're kind of at the end of a long TV show or movie and you go to the party scene and there's all the characters are there. They're all at the party, hugging and eating tiny sandwiches. All right, next up, this is our last track of the week. And then after this, we're going to come back. I'm going to try an episode of this game called Still Life, which is a point-and-click adventure from the late 90s. Persona 1 Blood Destiny. Well, join our Discord GUI and request it for next week. All right, this is from Dragon's Dogma, intro free Dangan. Do you have a favorite track of the week so far? I think mine is probably like New Bodom or Over the Hills, or I don't know. There's one earlier I think I forgot about. Wow, that theme did everything. That was pretty nuts. That's from Dragon's Dogma? Holy crap. That's pretty intense. Well, everybody, thanks for participating and putting in all these awesome songs that a lot of them I hadn't heard. Oh, you know, Kingdom of Bermesia might be my fave from the whole week. A track that I didn't know before. And Nintendo game music from 2010 to 2020. No, Lee, not. I was saying either... Oh, wait, we need to pick a topic for next week's theme. So I'm thinking Nintendo music? Leonat somehow said that was restrictive. Yes, I mean more of when I said maybe like all the 2010s of just any music. So like the last 5 years or 2019 or... Because we did a lot of like throwback stuff with the JRPG, so it might be kind of cool to do like, the last 5 years of music or 2019 or something. Because, I mean... yeah, Do4. Thanks very much for the stream. Some great memories of tunes. Time to wipe the dust off PS1. Find those 8 and 9 discs. Yeah, I think we could do, I don't know, what are people into? I'm thinking either all Nintendo game music or we could do last 5 years of any game music. Yeah. What kind of music came out in 2019? Let's see here. Or even like the last 2 years, sort of like anything that's come out this year and last year. Just to kind of give people a bit of a limitation. I think it could be kind of interesting to see what people come up with. Like 2019 in gaming, let's see. Again, the last 5 years. Yeah, just to kind of like give some options. I think if it was the last year or two, probably pretty restrictive. Last 5 years. I want to play everything else more, but you're so tired all the time, having trouble getting around to do everything. Yeah, that's the thing. Gotta have that sleep. Another slump in the afternoons when you usually go to bed. Okay. Amiga 500 music. I don't know anything about the stuff before NES. Okay, cool. All right, let's do it. So next week we'll do... Okay, next week's theme... Last 5 years. Yeah, so that would be 2020, 2019, 2018, 2017, 2016. 2016 until now. Okay? That'll be super fun. I'm going to come back with Still Life in, I guess, 5-10 minutes. I just got to put up a new thumbnail and... minutes with point and click adventure late 90s game Still Life. All right, let's see what this looks like. Still Life. I'm loving having my gaming PC separate from my streaming PC. Doesn't it look cool on this side of my head? Oof, looks like I'm in the desert. Where is it? Still Life. Fire it up. It's a pretty short game, too. Just looking for stuff to kill some time until The Last of Us 2 comes out. We can argue about politics. Isn't that fun? Politics? No, it's not. So it'll look like this. Ooh, look at that. It's a kind of a small setup, this one. Okay, that's it. Bye, everybody. I'll be back in about 5 minutes with some more stuff. Get on Discord to put those songs in, and we'll be back with some Still Life. Detective murder mystery point and click game. See you then.